and dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
What's going on, guys, and welcome to Stateside Footy. It's your boy Steve checking in with you. Hump day. God damn it, the week is almost over, and for me, because I have a pretty kick-ass job, man. I had a 5-day weekend, and this week is only 3 days, so I'm just like, another day before the weekend starts again. So I gotta say, man, not so bad. Not so fucking goddamn bad. All right, guys. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Those that are tuning in on TikTok Live, I want to say thank you. Those that are tuning in through X, thank you. And, of course, those that are tuning in via the good old-fashioned YouTube, I do want to say thank you as well, too. Please do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and also hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming Stateside Footy content, because this weekend we are back in the Premier League, and we will also have the MLS live stream as well, too. So a lot of good stuff coming down, and I actually think I'm going to be doing a USL live stream as well, too, because I like to take care of the homies. And because Natesky, who has shown nothing but love, and he's all about Rhode Island FC, man. I'm gonna hook a brother up. All right, so I want to begin tonight because, listen, man, Captain America is getting flamed. He's getting absolutely roasted on the internet, and a lot of people are, I wouldn't say a lot, retards are saying, yeah, listen, I use the word. It is what it is. But, when you're acting stupid, you're going to get called out on it. Those that are, saying good because he's a Trump supporter, blah, 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 blah. Just shut up, dude. This is not exactly what you want from your best player going into probably one of the most important World Cups that this country has had since 1994. It sounds like it started with his ex-girlfriend, who is kind of a baddie herself, putting out a little something saying that, he was already on a dating app for celebrities a couple weeks before they officially split. And then, of course, internet sleuths decided to get on the case. And, of course, they posted what has to be, Christian's dating profile. Turns out the dating profile was from a couple years ago. And listen, I'm not the type of guy that is going to engage in hyperbole. I'm not going to be the type of guy that is going to speculate. But that being said, there could be a zillion reasons for why she did what she did. But my read is, like, Christian doesn't strike me as the type of dude that would go behind the back of a baddie like, the golfer chick. I mean, that's a good looking chick. But the other reason is, like, if you have seen his family, his dad looks like the type of dude that can still kind of fucking, kick some ass. And of course, he's got a pretty solid mom and he's got a pretty solid sister. And he doesn't strike me as the type of dude that's going to, pull some shit like that. There could be a zillion reasons for why she did what she did. It could have even been as simple as he just forgot to delete the app. It could have been something as simple as that, where maybe she went snooping through his phone, saw the app and freaked out, and he was like, listen, I just forgot to close out the app. That shit actually happened to me about 2 years ago. And it was completely innocent. And I wasn't looking for any type of hookups or anything like that. I just had the app on the phone and I hadn't used it, and it had been dormant for a while. And she freaked out. And after she calmed down and actually used reason, and she saw it, she was like, oh, okay, cool. But needless to say, we're not together anymore because she's kind of crazy. But all I will say is that he doesn't strike me as the type of dude that would put himself in a position to have his business put on Front Street. I'm not saying I feel bad for the guy. I'm just saying that he doesn't strike me as the type of guy who would do that. Needless to say, if you're on USMNT Twitter or USMNT TikTok or USMNT whatever social media platform that you follow the national team, he's getting absolutely just dragged through the coals. And I got to be honest with you guys. It's not my cup of tea, man. It's not my cup of tea. Me personally, I would rather wait to see how this thing plays out to really kind of formulate an opinion. If it turns out that Christian kind of was creeping around the back door, potentially knocking on Miss Sydney Sweetie's door while he was still with another woman. Yeah, that's not cool. But until then, I don't really give a shit. The only thing I care about is his form, and I care about what he does on the pitch. Listen, man, we're all not perfect. And the reality is you're still dealing with a dude who's 25, 26, 27 years old, who's a millionaire 20 times over. He's a reasonably decent looking dude who is living in Italy. And listen, he's going to have pussy thrown at him. He's going to have a lot of pussy thrown at him. And you know what? I remember what it was like to be in my mid-20s as well, too. I wasn't necessarily on that level, but I get it. And if there is improprieties, it's all that is a learning experience. And I'm not going to sit there and judge a guy if that is what it is. But listen, man, we have a World Cup coming up in less than 60 days now. So maybe a little bit more than that. This is not the kind of thing that a dude that is struggling with form kind of needs out there. That's just kind of not what we need right now. But needless to say, man, Christian, I got your back, brother. Don't worry about it. I got your back. And I know you're watching. So don't worry about it, man. Online, in person, it doesn't matter, man. Us Michigan guys, man, we got your back hard, man. Don't worry about it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it because it was actually a good weekend for the U.S. men's national team pool players that are over there in Europe. A lot of these guys were a part of the March camp. The interesting thing is when you kind of look at some of these, results, and you kind of look at the production, the first thing that kind of goes to your mind is like, well, why didn't we see this in the March camp? And there's a lot of reasons why we didn't see it. And I think I might have said that on the last show. It's like, personally, I don't think that they were ready for that type of level of competition, considering that for the most part, for the last 2 years, since Copa America 2024, they have played nothing but CONCACAF competition. And when they weren't playing CONCACAF competition, they were playing New Zealand, Australia, Venezuela, Costa Rica. It's not the type of level of opponents that gets you ready for that type of opposition. And so from that standpoint, it's kind of understanding. that we didn't necessarily see that type of production, but still, there is going to be no correlation between what happened in March and what's going to happen in the World Cup. This team will be ready. So let's go ahead and get into it. And we start with the strikers because we always start with the strikers. We begin with Flo Balogun, who, let me just say that Flo was unbelievable in this game against Marseille. Let me go ahead and just pull this up for you guys so you guys can see it again, because I think it is unbelievable. So let's go ahead and share this thing. All right, let's just do this real quick. And let's just start from the beginning, shall we? Because this thing is just unbelievable. Look at this. Look at this. Silky. Soft touch over the keeper. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Not too many, by the way, I don't think we've really had too many strikers in the history of our pool that had that type of touch. But that being said, it was a remarkable goal. Flo Balogun, his form has been this way for the last, I want to say, about a month and a half. And in this one, he played 84 minutes, had a goal, only 25 touches. 5 of those came in the opposition box, 6 of 10 of accurate passing. He only was 1 of 1 on successful dribbles, 1 of 1 on accurate crosses, and that was good for a 7.5 rating. Not really much to it except for the goal, but that being said, at the end of the day, all you're looking for is end product. And Flo Balogun is able to do it. Sometimes I actually have to kind of pump the brakes a little bit, and I have to remind myself who he's doing it against. And Olympique Marseille, whether we all want to admit it, is not the Marseille of the late 80s, early 90s, when they were at the absolute height of their the peak of their powers. Let's be perfectly honest, Ligue 1 is outside of PSG and maybe Monaco once every 3 or 4 years. It's kind of a weak league, but again, that being said, it's still a decent league to get yourself ready for a World Cup. Would it surprise me if a guy like Balogun after the World Cup gets a move? It wouldn't at all. We already have seen Ricardo Pepi line up a move to Fulham. Congratulations, Ricardo. And so from that standpoint, there, especially in the striker market, where it is slim pickings for very good upsided strikers, that you can see a dude like Flo Balogun get a move to a bigger club, and it would be worth it. And I would have no doubts if he made the move to Italy, made the move to Spain, made the move to England or Germany, any of those big 4 leagues, and I think he would absolutely thrive. But needless to say, he had an absolute phenomenal performance against Marseille, and that was an absolutely beautiful goal. Speaking of Ricardo Pepi, PSV Eindhoven did beat FC Utrecht 4-3. Congratulations to PFC Eindhoven. This is their 3rd straight Eredivisie title. And by the way, Ricardo Pepi only played 4 minutes in this one, so there's not really much to talk about Ricardo. And of course, there was a picture, I think, of him on, I want to say, X, where it looked like he was pouring beers for the boys in celebration of yet another Eredivisie title. I wish there was more to this one with Ricardo. It just is what it is. But again, congratulations to PSV winning yet another Eredivisie title. Haji Wright and Coventry City drew 0-0 with Hull City, and Haji wasn't really all that good. He only played 64 minutes, 19 touches, 4 in the opposition box, only 2 of 5 on accurate passes. 1 of those goes into the final third. I think he only had 3 defensive contributions in this one, 4 of 6 of aerial duels. That was good for a 5.5 rating. Haji has cooled down a little bit. And of course, Haji was not a part of the March camp. And I think a lot of people thought that maybe that could have been a little bit of a snub. Yes and no. I mean, Aubameyang was always going to be there. The snub really was Ricardo Pepi not getting any playing time. There could have been something to that. But that being said, Haji has cooled down a little bit. But again, Coventry City is still in a position where they're still vying for an automatic automatic promotion there in the championship. And so from that standpoint, he's going to play a massive role. And he is kind of the streaky striker. Would it surprise me if he gets on a little bit of a purple patch between now and the end of the season? Not at all. And of course, if he helps Coventry get an automatic promotion, he'll be in the Premier League next season. And, that raises his stock just incredibly. And I would probably think that if he finishes the season absolutely strong, you're probably going to see him on the World Cup roster because of Patrick Agyemang's injury. And so I think a lot of people just assume that it's going to be those three. I'm going to say this again. Do not rule out Josh Sargent, even though I don't think he deserves it. That being said, because of his World Cup 2022 experience, and because he's very familiar with Pochettino and what he's trying to do, and he's familiar with the boys, would it surprise me if Josh Sargent is in the conversation? Not at all. Not at all. But I think most would expect Haji Wright to be there. But again, I think striker 1 and striker 2 is already locked down. It's all going to be about who's going to fit that third striker. I don't think they're caring for. Maybe if Agyemang was still going to be available, potentially you can see 4, but I don't think that's going to happen now. Turning to the forwards now, AC Milan did lose 1-0 to Napoli, and I think that pretty much sewed up meaning that AC Milan will not win the Scudetto this season. And it looked like there for a while they had a good opportunity to get that Scudetto in Italy, but they have hit a patch of bad form, and it's not just Pulisic; it's a couple different players there for Milan. In this one, Christian only played 16 minutes, and again, not really a lot to write home in his 16 minutes on the pitch. And again, it's not necessarily a surprise considering the minutes that he played in the March camp. I was expecting this to happen, but again, I've been consistent with this, and because we were talking about the top of this show and the fact that now all of a sudden his personal business is on Front Street with the U.S. men's national team supporters, and now that I think most realize that he's dealing with form issues. Again, I still don't think that there's anything to worry about. Again, if there's anybody who understands how important this World Cup is, it's Christian. And because he's got a track record, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm just going to, I'm going to do that because I trust Christian in his ability to get ready and his ability to put this nation on his back. He did it a little bit in the 2022 World Cup. So listen, man, if anybody can do it, it's him. Weston, McKennie, and again, this is another fantastic performance. Juve beat Genoa 2-0. Weston played the full 90. He scored a goal in this one. And again, it was another brilliant goal from Wes. He had 50 goddamn touches in this match. 4 of those in the opposition box, 27-32 of accurate passes, 4 into the final third, 1 of 2 of accurate long balls, 6 defensive contributions, 4 clearances, 1 of 1 of aerial duels, and that was good for an 8 rating. And Weston, again, carrying off of that March camp where I thought he was the best player. And I don't know how you guys felt about it, but Wes certainly, in my mind, was the attacker that was in the best form outside of Balogun. But when you looked at how teams were approaching Balogun, and it was Wes that was the most dangerous of the attackers, it's not surprising that he carried that form back to the club. And again, the way that this thing is playing out, it's probably going to be him and Balogun that are going to be coming into that World Cup camp as the 2 hottest attackers. Listen, man, I'm thrilled for Wes. I'm very thrilled for Wes, and I'm hoping that this is his breakout World Cup where I think a lot of people would assume that's going to be Pooley, but if it's Wes, then all of a sudden he's going to get he's finally going to get, the attention and the respect that is absolutely earned. Wes is starting to become one of my favorite players. I do want to welcome in this guy into the chat. I don't know your name. I know there's a number 63 at the end of it, and he says, hi, hello. Malik Tillman, this is funny because Bayer Leverkusen did beat Wolfsburg 6-3. Malik Tillman comes off the bench for 2 minutes. Okay? Officially for 2 minutes. He comes in on stoppage time and scores a goal. And I think this was in the 90+6. Only made 13 touches. 2 of those came in the box. I think he was, 7 of 9 of accurate passes. Listen, there's not really a lot to say about this performance because it was only 2 minutes. But in 2 minutes and you score, that's good for an 8 rating for me. You made the most of your you made the most of the minutes that you were given. Congratulations, Malik Tillman, for scoring that goal. That was absolutely awesome. And it wasn't a penalty. So listen, man, I'm thrilled because that's awesome. I don't think I can't remember the last time I've seen those type of substitutions where all of a sudden you get a goal. How about Rokas Pukstas again? I know, I'm always fumbling the bag on his last name. It just is what it is. Pushtax. Anyway, Hajduk Split beat NK Istra 96-3-1, and this kid is on fire. This kid is on fire. If he's not scoring goals, he's providing assists, and he's getting about 75-ish, 76 minutes, it seems like, on a constant basis. This time it was 76 minutes. He has an assist with 2 chances created. He has 50 touches, 9 in the opposition box, 20 of 25 accurate passes, 5 into the final third, 1 of 1 of accurate crossing, 1 of 2 of accurate long balls. And he also was 2 of 3 of aerial duels, and that's good for an 8.5 rating. And he's going to continue to get featured on my rundown until this dude gets cold. What I will say, I've been consistent with this one. It's funny because the last show that I had was talking about Xavier Gozo from Real Salt Lake. And for me, it's a no-go. But if the name, Rokas Pukstas was mentioned, now all of a sudden we can have a conversation, right? Because personally, when you look at his profile and you look at his skill set, I think he's farther along. I think he's better than Xavier Gozo at the minute. Now, I don't think either of them are going to make the World Cup. I think what this is going to end up being is that come 2030, we're going to have a very good team, because when you look at some of these prospects that are on the verge of the senior national team, whether that be Gozo, Hall, the kid from San Jose, Nico, I can't pronounce his last name, the kid that has Greek origin, Rokas Pukstas. When you're starting to think about these kids that are going to be 22 come 2030, and all of a sudden you're kind of looking at it like some of these guys that are going to be second or potential third, second World Cup guys, second cycle guys. Potentially Christian might be there, maybe. But then you're starting to look at the guys that are starting to push their way forward. And you're kind of looking at the dynamic of what it potentially could look like in 2030. And you're kind of like, yeah, it's going to be a very good team. That has the potential to be something special. And this kid is just lighting this league on fire. And he has no, it doesn't look like he's going to slow down anytime soon. And it's been fun watching this kid play football, because I think he's the real deal. If you're talking in that age group, right? If you're talking in that age group, he's probably the best. And that includes, Kevin Sullivan, that includes some of the guys that are currently in Major League Soccer right now. This kid is just electric. Let's talk about Alex Dejas, because he did play. As a matter of fact, he played yesterday. In the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Nashville SC. And, of course, Club America and Nashville drew 0-0, as this one will return back down to Mexico. In this one, he played 89 minutes. He did create a chance. He had 64 touches, 47 of 49 of accurate passes, 7 go into the final third, 2 of 4 of accurate long balls. He also had 6 defensive contributions, 5 interceptions, and I think he was playing on the left. 2 of 2 of aerial duels, and that was good for a 7.5 rating. And this is going to be, me personally, this is going to be interesting because I think he should be a part of the World Cup roster. And he hasn't featured in a while under Mauricio Pochettino. This probably would have been the camp to do it. I know that the eyes and vibes guy, we're talking about, if you're going to bring somebody along for the vibes, instead of a guy like Christian Roldan, bring a guy like Alex Zendejas. Me personally, I think you should just bring Zendejas anyways. I think he's gonna, he's gonna carry Roldan regardless. But that being said, it's like, if you're kind of looking at that forward position, and it's like, if you're asking me, like, between Zendejas and a guy like potentially Diego Luna, it's like me personally, I'd rather take Zendejas because this dude is legit. He's just 100% legit. And from that standpoint where it's like, all you have to do is watch a Club America game, and it's like the dude's just an automatic goal or an assist. Like, the dude always seems to find a way to be productive. And, you're talking about guys at the end of your bench in the World Cup where if you're chasing a goal, you have that type of creative spark off your bench. Or, if you're tied and you're trying to win it, again, Zendejas is the real deal, man. And he's right now in the best form this season, and he's peaking at the right time, and it makes perfect sense. But that being said, I can see a scenario where both of those guys will be on the team as well too. Lastly, Gianluca Busio, and Busio is on fire as well too. This is also kind of a head scratcher as well too. I understand he plays in Serie B, but Venezia did beat Juve Strabia 3-1. Busio played the full 90, had an assist, had 3 chances created, 85 touches, 4 in the opposition box, 58 of 65 of accurate passes, 8 into the final third, 3 of 7 of accurate crosses, 4 defensive contributions, 5 of 8 of grand duels, 1 of 1 of aerial duels, and that was good for an 8.5 rating as well too. When you talk about form, this kid is in absolute form. And the funny thing is, like, there's still this conversation about Yunus Musa, and it's like, I don't think he's the best 8. I don't think Musa's even the best American 8 in Italy right now. I think it's kind of Gianluca Busio, really, if you want to get down to it. And Busio has that creative ability in central areas. He can break lines if you want to play him a little bit deep. If you want to play him further up the pitch, like, dude can play a ball into the box, and he can also be dangerous as well too, because he's not afraid to take shots from outside the 18. He is a difference maker. And the interesting thing is, I think Busio moves this summer. Regardless if Venezia goes up, I think he moves. And this is also somebody that I wouldn't have a problem taking a flyer on in the World Cup. Me personally, I think when you're talking about players that are informed, players that can have an impact, Busio and Zendejas are 2 guys that you kind of really have to, as a coaching staff, sit down and look at it. And it's like, I understand there's some guys that you might trust because you've given them opportunities, but that being said, it's about winning. It's about winning a World Cup. And sometimes those players that are in the best form are some of the guys that you kind of want to bring along. All right, let's turn to the mid. Tyler Adams did play, and he played well in a 0-0 draw against Brentford. Bournemouth. Tyler Adams played a full 90, had 60 touches, 45 of 49 of accurate passes, 4 into the final third, 2 of 3 of accurate long balls, 12 defensive contributions, 3 interceptions. Looks like it was 7 recoveries, and that was good for 7.5 rating. And this dude's going to be pivotal. This guy's going to be pivotal in the World Cup for us because this dude puts out fires. And you can send another guy forward through the midfield, and you don't have to worry because Tyler is there to put out fires, clean up messes, cover your ass. And that's all that's all there is to say about that. But what's funny about it is, somebody in England was talking shit about him. And it's like, there's a reason why Manchester United and Liverpool want him, because his value is as high as it's ever going to be. But when you kind of look at it, if you take a step back and look at his strengths, there's a lot of value in it because you don't have to worry. Yes, he's not the quickest, but yet his positioning is always on point. That's it. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter about how quick you are as long as you can play the position and you're a cut above some of your contemporaries in that department. There's a reason why Tyler Adams is wanted in the Premier League. And you're going to see it this summer in the World Cup. Greg 1987, what's going on, my guy? How you doing? Good to see it. Tessman did play. He played 73 minutes in a 0-0 draw against Angers. It wasn't really all that great of a performance for Tess, but again, his World Cup spot is a lock. Aiden Morris, Middlesbrough played Swansea City to a 2-2 draw, and Morris was amazing. Again, Morris was amazing. Played a full 90, created 4 chances. Unbelievable. He had 116 touches. It's unbelievable how many touches this dude makes on a week-by-week basis. 77 of 83 of accurate passes, 11 go into the final third. 2 of 2 of accurate long balls, 7 defensive contributions. Looks like it's 4 tackles, 11 recoveries, 8 of 13 ground duels, 2 of 3 aerial duels, and that was good for an 8.5 rating. And that's the thing. It's like, it's hard to have this conversation because you know that Adams will be there, Tessman will be there, Johnny, I think, is going to be there, and I get the impression they're only going to carry 4 defensive mids. They're only going to carry 4. So now you're thinking, it's like, is it going to be Roldan or is it going to be Aiden Morris? Well, right now, Aiden Morris is absolutely one of the best 6s, if not the best holding mid in the championship right now. Like, his game has, like, because Middlesbrough are where they're at in the table, fighting for promotion, that game has risen to a level where you're kind of looking at it, and when you watch him play, the dude is amazing. Phenomenal. And it's like, well, again, it's the same thing that applies. It's like, if I'm making a case for Busio, you almost have to make a case for Aiden Morris because the dude his form is unreal right now. And again, you want to bring at least the best players that are in the best form at the time. Let's see. Is Johnny okay? Haven't seen him in the last 2 matches for Atletico Madrid. Yeah, I think he was suspended for 1. And then he served a 1-game suspension, and yeah, it's a good question. I know he's not injured. So maybe they held him out. I don't know. Good question. I'll have to look it up. Let's find out. Let's just do that right now. Johnny Cardoso. Let's find out for you. Let's see. Let's see. All right, Johnny Cardoso. It looks like yeah, okay, let's see. Now it says that it was discovered that he actually suffered a thigh muscle injury, but the interesting thing was there was reports when he took off that there was no injury. So who are you going to believe? Who are you going to believe? Yeah. By the way, losing Ajamang wasn't really that big of a setback. I'll just say that. All right. So, but yeah, and again, it's like, are there going to be concessions for Pochettino's guys? I guess it's going to be depending on the player, right? So, what I really want to know is like how they view Johnny, right? Because he only played 45 minutes in March, and it wasn't like the greatest 45 in the world. It also wasn't the worst. And we hadn't seen Johnny prior to that in a while. And you had a Christian Roldan that was pretty solid in the fall. Aiden Morris. And his performances with the national team in the fall were good, not great. But again, his club form is pretty fantastic. All right, let's turn to the wingbacks. Timmy Weah obviously played in the 2-1 loss against AS Monaco. He played 89 minutes, did create 2 chances, 58 touches, 36 of 41 of accurate passes. 2 of those go into the final third. 2 of 3 of accurate long balls. 3 defensive contributions, 2 tackles, 4 recoveries, 3 of 6 of ground duels, and that was good for a 7 rating. And Alex Freeman did make an appearance in a 1-0 loss to Girona with Villarreal. He only played 20 minutes, did create a chance, though. 19 touches, 10 of 12 of accurate passes, 4 defensive contributions, 2 tackles, 2 of 2 on ground duels, and that was good for a 7 rating as well. It's interesting. So obviously Serginho is recovering. Jedi did not play this last weekend. And Way and Freeman obviously did. What I will say is that after the March camp, if we're playing a back 4, I don't want to see Timmy Weah playing deep. If you're going to play in a back 4, that means you're going to be playing at least with a standard set of wingers. And I would rather have a guy like Timmy Weah playing forward because he was dreadful. He was dreadful as a stay-at-home right back. There's a reason why Belgium went down the left side to Jeremy Doku because Timmy Weah couldn't stop it. Now, if we're playing a back 3 and the wing backs are playing forward as wingers, yeah, at that stage I don't really give a shit because you actually have coverage on 2 different you have coverage on that side, whether it's high from a 6 from one of the 6 that are going to drift over and below from that right-sided center back, so you're going to have protection. But that being said, here's the thing, right? If Serginho Dest is healthy, if Alex Freeman is available, depending on which formation we play, I do not want to see Timmy Weah as a stay-at-home right back because that's going to get so exposed. And from that standpoint, you kind of want to play him higher up the pitch because you want to use his pace and physicality in areas that's going to actually be a net positive and not a net weakness. And he is just hot garbage as a stay-at-home right back. Sad but true. Lastly, let's talk a couple center backs before we call it good. Mark McKenzie did play as Toulouse lost 3-1 to PSG. He played 90 minutes, had 45 touches, 25 of 31 of accurate passes, 4 into the final third, 1 of 1 on successful dribbles, 1 of 3 of accurate long balls. He did have 6 defensive contributions, 10 recoveries, 2 of 4 of ground duels, 1 of 1 of aerial duels, and that was good for a 6.5 rating. PSG did score a goal off his side as he was playing on the right side of the back 3. Mark's actually had a really good season. This last weekend notwithstanding, he's going to be one of the guys that we're going to be entrusting one of those center back spots to. And again, all of this is repetition for the World Cup. Lastly, Austin Trusty and Celtic did beat Dundee FC 2-1. And Trusty played the full 90. He did create a chance in this one. 91 touches, 70 of 81 of accurate passes, 7 of those go into the final third. 1 of 4 of accurate long balls. He had 8 defensive contributions, 8 clearances, 4 of 4 of aerial duels, and that was good for a 7.5 rating. Austin Trusty, and we got Gio got 5 minutes. Hold on real quick. Let me check something real quick. That's funny though. Gio got 5 minutes. Let me see something real quick. Yeah, he did get 5 minutes. And Joe Scally played in that 2-2 draw against Heidenheim as well too. I think he got 70. Where did he play? He was playing as a right wing back. He had 70 minutes in this one. Oh man, Gio came in. So yeah, Gio played 5 minutes, 15 of 15 of accurate passing though. Did have 18 touches, 2 in the opposition box, 1 pass into the final third. That was it for Gio. Scally was pulled after 70, and Scally had 35 touches, 17 of 22 of accurate passes, 2 into the final third, and 1 of 1 of accurate long balls, 3 defensive contributions, 2 tackles, 6 recoveries, and that was it. And that was good for a 6.5 rating. So that is your Borussia Mönchengladbach report for the week. So those 2 right there. I still there's going to be exceptions when it comes to these type of players, i.e. Gio Reyna is probably going to make the team from a just a pure talent standpoint, and the maturity from 4 years ago to where we are now. He's probably going to make the team. Like, the way that I look at this is you're going to have your 3 strikers, Balogun, Pepe, and then name your 3rd striker, Pulisic, McKennie, Tillman, and then it's going to be Reyna. That's 4 forwards. You think they're probably going to carry 6. And then, where do you go from here? Is it going to be, you're probably going to have Weah, so there's only going to be 1 more spot. So is it going to be Zendejas? Cole Campbell's not going to make, George Campbell's not going to make this team. Is it going to be Zendejas, or is it going to be, Luna? And again, I say this, and I'll do that's the thing. It's there's going to have to be some concessions here, and that concession is: are you not going to take one of the guys that you essentially gave caps to last season for a guy who is in the best form of the season right now, heading into the most important stretch of the season, and that's Zendejas, who is I guess that's a question. Who, from a creative standpoint, is going to put you in a better situation to score goals off the bench? Is it going to be Zendejas, or is it going to be Diego? And Diego had a good weekend this last week too. It's an interesting question, but I have a feeling, knowing Pochettino, it's going to be Diego Luna. If it's Steve, it's Zendejas. And then, that's the thing. It's okay, cool. So is there going to be 4 defensive midfielders? If I'm assuming it's a back 3, and considering that when he's played a back 3, the double pivot, I guess you could say, it's always been played by 2 6s, right? So there's always going to be 4, but is this going to be a situation where maybe they carry it, they carry a center mid? And again, it's I'm looking at this kind of I wouldn't mind seeing Gianluca Busio. Busio has been phenomenal. And from what he's been saying, it's league doesn't matter, form matters. And this dude has been on fire. He has been on goddamn fire. Who is it going to be? I don't know. There's going to be a couple spots. It's who's going to be. Let's see. Also, Lawless talked on his podcast about Gozo could be a no. Gozo. Yeah, no. I made the case against Gozo. Gozo absolutely adds nothing to your roster at the stage. And I listen. And what's funny is because everybody goes ape shit over 10-second replays of goals. Okay. And I'll say it to you right now. Okay. Like Gozo last year, okay, was his first full season in Major League Soccer. We'll for the last 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes, we'll talk about this right now. Last year, in all competitions, 2,202 minutes, 4 goals, 3 assists. That was last year. Okay. This year, he's played in 540 minutes, 2 goals and 2 assists. And the 2 goals that he scored against were against Atlanta United and Sporting Kansas City, 2 of the worst defenses in the league this year. Okay, so we have to take into consideration. You have to take in consideration who he's scoring against, and then when you talk about his youth career with the U.S. youth national team, in the U20s, 751 minutes, and that was between the U20 CONCACAF championships, the friendlies, and the U20 World Cups. 3 goals, 4 assists. And then what was it between the U15s and the 19s? He only played in 10 games, and he only provided 2 goals. So we have to take a step back and understand that it's like, yes, on the surface it looks like we have an exciting young prospect, but again, he's 19 years old, and when you compare him to the contemporaries, that's somebody, Big Pat, 2,700 minutes, 10 goals, 7 with his big head. That's kind of funny. Yeah, but you know what's funny is Big Pat plays at a position where we didn't have a lot of depth. There is a difference between Patrick Agyemang and his 10 goals versus Xavier Gozo and his 2 goals. But also think of it this way, right? We also don't play in a system that we really have wingers. And we already have players that are far better to play those 2 underneath 10s than a guy like Gozo. But, compared to his contemporaries, I guess you can say wonder kids that broke through into the U.S. senior national team when they were 17 and 18, Landon Donovan and Christian Pulisic, they were far, far ready-made products by the time they hit the senior national team, and they had prolific youth careers. Where it wasn't just at a club. It was also for the youth national teams where they scored shitloads of goals. And by the time they hit the senior national team, they were finished products. There was no worry that they couldn't handle that level. You put Gozo in the World Cup, and this team gets past the group stage, and all of a sudden they're playing, I don't know, Belgium. They wouldn't be playing Belgium, but you get what I'm saying. You put him against a mid-tier European team. Say, who the fuck is in it? Say Turkey. Dude, he's not all of a sudden going to provide something that is going to unlock this attack. This kid has a potential to be deer in the headlights, man. And that's no disrespect to him, but he's not ready for the senior national team. I would think that by 2030, he will most definitely be ready for the senior national team, right? But the one thing that you want to do is, if you're going to bring somebody in for their first cap, you don't do it in a World Cup, right? When Pat was brought in, it was Camp Cupcake 2025, and he had a full year to bring slowly along. Same thing with Freeman, same thing with Arfston, same thing with Bearhalter, right? These guys were brought along slowly, and they were brought in strategically as well too, depending on the opponents. And each level progressively got bigger for them. And every stage of the way, their minutes were monitored and so on and so forth, right? So what you do with a Gozo and what you do with a Julian Hall or a Kevin Sullivan or that Nico kid from San Jose is this December when Camp Cupcake returns, because now it's not going to be in January, it's going to be in December because of the MLS offseason. That's when you bring them in. And that's when you give them their first caps against, St. Kitts and Nevis or Venezuela or Bolivia or whatever other shit national team you're going to be playing during those two friendlies. And then you can bring them along, right? Like the next head coach, all those top end prospects that are 17, 18, 19, 20, those are the prospects that I'm bringing in. At least domestically, right? Because I don't think maybe it's weird about the Croatian league. Let me find out about that real quick. The Croatian Super League. When does it? Let's see. When does it run? All right. When does it end? Okay, so it runs on the FIFA calendar. Okay. Yeah, okay. It runs. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, he's not going to be able to get called in. Yeah. So let's see. Have the most upside. Yeah, and then also I wouldn't mind bringing in even a Calvin Sullivan at that point too. You might as well, and get these guys ingrained with the national team, and then when Nations League comes along again, that's when you can integrate them with the rest of the first team to see what that looks like and see if they're going to be able to hang that type of situation. Matt Hoppe. The three young guys you just spoke on, who has the most upside to be a star for us? I'm kind of feeling Julian Hall. Julian Hall he's special, man. Julian Hall is pretty goddamn special. He's pretty special, and by the way, I like the fact that he's playing for Michael Bradley. Yeah, you're right, Star Wars Satan. Yeah, like of the young kids, the interesting thing is that Nico Sakaris guy from San Jose, that young kid is good as well too. And that's the thing, is we're also going to need the next wave of strikers coming through too. And that's the thing. It's like I'm looking at our striker depth chart and wondering who is going to be the next. Pepe, depending on how that shit goes in England with Fulham, Pepe is going to be around for the next cycle too. Just out of curiosity. How old is he right now? He is 24, so he'll be 29. 29-30 in 2030. So yeah, those guys will be near aging out come 2030. So the Christian Pulisics of the world, Flo Balogun, and Wes right now is 27, so Wes might not even be around. This might just be it for Wes. He's already 27. He'd be, 32, 31, 32, playing in Major League Soccer. Am I going to any of the World Cup games? Yes. U.S. men's national team, the second game against Australia in my hometown. I am slated. As of yet, I don't have any tickets. I'm waiting to strike because I heard I have a little birdie that's whispering in my ear. And I'm not gonna divulge my my ticket source, but what I will say is that it's considerably way cheaper. I got to find out if this shit's legit or not. So I'm slated, yes, to go to Seattle for U.S. versus Australia. That's what I will say. But from that standpoint, I'm curious how you guys feel. And yes, especially Greg 1987, Star Wars Satan. Again, phenomenal name. And also you guys that are tuning in on TikTok Live. Let me know what you feel. Do you like, first of all, I guess the question that I have for you guys is number one, and you guys can leave this in the chat as well too. Get a selfie with Tim Cahill. No, dude, Ange Postecoglou. Do you feel like the March losses against Belgium and Portugal are going to play a role in the World Cup, or do you feel like I do that they're mutually exclusive? I don't think one has anything to do with the other, and I think this team will be ready. But I guess the overall writing theme for you guys are, number one, like, do you guys believe in this team? Right? Do you think this team is capable of handling the responsibility of a World Cup on home soil? Because the last time we saw this team on home soil in a major tournament, they got grouped. Now, granted, you can say that it was, Greg Berhalter and the old staff, but that being said, it's largely the exact same players. It's largely the same players that quit on a coach. And I absolutely hate players that do that. Now, whether or not they specifically set out to do it, but that being said, that was the end result. And 2 years ago, when it happened, I got nervous because I have never seen a U.S. men's national team play that poorly in a major tournament since 1998. That 98 World Cup probably was the worst result in a major tournament I've seen in my life. 1990 was something different because that was our first World Cup in 40 years. And that was an extremely young team that was made up of guys that were anywhere between 19 and 22. There were a couple of veteran hangovers from 86 that didn't qualify, but a large portion of those guys were just cool with getting to a World Cup. And so for a lot of the younger guys that ended up being on that 94 team, they showed their inexperience. 94 was cool because obviously they rode the wave from the home supporters. They beat the number 2 team in the world in the group stage, and ultimately, showed their lack of depth and inexperience in that loss to Brazil. But in 98, when you think about post 94, they go to the Copa America in 95. They get to a semifinal, which was unbelievable, really, in context, when you consider 6 years earlier, they just qualified for their first World Cup in 40 years. 5 years later, they're in a semifinal of a major tournament in South America, and they beat Mexico along the way to get there. And so when you're kind of looking at some of those results heading into World Cup qualifying, they qualified first, and it going into that 98 World Cup, at the time, we didn't know about the Eric Winalda, John Harkes beef, which, played a huge factor in that team. And of course, we saw, the shitty tactics from Steve Sampson. That 06 team wasn't as bad. It didn't have the same talent and depth as the 02 team. And if they get a win against Ghana, they go through. It was a poor mistake against Ghana. But that being said, it's that team got grouped as well too, but it wasn't as bad as the 98 team. The 98 team, I think, only scored 1 goal all the way through those 3 games, finishing dead last in the tournament. It was bad. Yeah, and they tied Italy in 2006. But that being said, it's that 2024 Copa America was bad. Yeah, I mean, we beat Bolivia, so we did get a win in that one. But when you saw the piss poor mistake against Panama, and then they got undressed against Uruguay, that was bad. And that was the lead-in. That was supposed to really be the dress rehearsal, really, when you think about it. 2024 Copa was just as bad as Trinidad. That was the low point. That was the low point. Trinidad was the low point. Let's see. He says a good role. It's going to help us. We'll force Poch to play our best players. We're going to ball out if Poch doesn't put in bad subs. I think Poch's subs are going to be fine. I'm hopeful Poch saving the goods for the World Cup, but if it is like March, I think we get third and progress, but it ends in the round of 32. Let's see. Did you see Greg's terrible tactics? Yeah. The bounce throws. The biggest issue with Greg was the fact that he wanted to play like Barcelona 2012 or like Brazil 1970. And it's like, dude, you don't have the player pool to do it. Not only do you not have the player pool, you don't have the talent to play it. And, that's the thing with international football. Like, you're starting to see this Pep Guardiola, Luis Enrique, Diego Simeone, what's his ass? Bayern Munich head coach, Vincent Kompany style football leak into the international game where they want to play this expansive, high possession Pep Guardiola style football. And it's like, stop. Because that's not international football. International football has always been a very pragmatic, a very dogmatic style of play where it's like you have 7 games to win a trophy. And it is all about scoring goals and defending for your life. There was a time where there was a lot of 1-0 games in the World Cup and you were on the edge of your seat for the entire 90. I'm sure a lot of U.S. fans remember that Belgium game from 2014 where, we fall a goal short, but from start to finish, we were just fucking on the edge of our seats. That is international football at its finest, right? It is not about who can hold the ball the longest. It's about scoring goals early and then defending for your goddamn life. Shit, dude. The Confederations Cup in 2009 when we beat Spain. Spain. I think Spain had the bulk of the possession in the second half as they were playing forward, and the U.S. was defending for their lives and beat them and took care of their. I think they had like a 36 game unbeaten streak at that time. Like Spain was Spain at that stage. Let's see. 2002 was amazing. Waking up at 4 a.m. to watch them play Germany. Yeah, dude, that was a fun World Cup. 98, I fell in love with the Croatian team because our U.S. men's national team was pathetic. What's funny is I was watching the 98 Cup, and of course I was rooting for the U.S., but I was quietly rooting for England because that England squad was that team was awesome. Tied Italy in 2006. 2020 was just as bad as Trinidad. Poch is doing the same thing, but we need to be direct counter-punching team like the old USA teams. By the way, here's the thing about this though. We still have the ability to put teams on the back foot. We can still be a very aggressive team early and take our shots and score goals. But yeah, that's what Poch was trying to do in those 2 friendlies in March. He was trying to kill it in the first 45. The problem, and for good parts of both of those games, like the U.S. could have scored 2 and sat back and did exactly what you said, but shit happens. Didn't work out that way. We didn't take our chances. Let's see. Everyone said Wondolowski blunder, that if Donovan were there, he would have scored. Yeah, but Wondolowski was offside anyway. If you remember, he was offside and you saw the flag go up. But Clint Dempsey had an opportunity to tie that in that game earlier in that game, and he hit it directly into the keeper. But yes, that is the only thing of Jurgen Klinsmann that I lost respect for him was the way that he cut Donovan. Because he had told the entire team that cuts were not going to be made until after the final tune-up match, which was in Miami against Nigeria, before they headed to the World Cup. That's when he was going to make the cuts. And he cut him on a Friday in Palo Alto. And the funny thing is that Sunil Gulati and his staff were already in mid-flight heading to Europe. And the media had already departed for the day. And so that's when Jurgen Klinsmann decided to cut Landon Donovan when nobody was around. Because if Sunil Gulati was there, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened, right? Because the U.S. had so much money tied up in Landon Donovan as far as like sponsorship money. And it was the one thing that Jurgen couldn't come back from. On top of the fact that he was publicly shit-talking Major League Soccer at the time. And the two losses, what's funny is like we get to a semifinal of the Copa America in 2016. You know what I mean? Like we parlay the 14 Cup into the Copa America in 2016. Our first two World Cup qualifiers are losses, and he gets the axe and the excuses because of those two losses. But really, those aren't the reasons why he got fired. He got fired because he left Landon Donovan off that team, and he did it in a bad way. He had zero reason to cut Donovan. I love the way he shit talked Major League Soccer. Kids need to go to Europe. Yeah, like I think we agree with that. But the funny thing about it was that I think at that stage, Landon probably isn't a full-time starter. Like in the group stage, he probably could have started one, but he's coming off the bench for significant minutes. So yeah, like what's funny is like in that Belgium match, he probably comes on at the half. You would probably like after the first 45, he probably comes on, and who knows how that plays out. But yeah, like to sit here and say that at the time, because I think the rosters were only 23, to sit here and say that even at that point, I think Landon was 32. To sit there and say that Landon was one of our best 23 players is ridiculous. Then why did they let him coach Copa after he cut Donovan? Because he was still getting results. You couldn't like, that's the thing. It's like at the time, it's like you couldn't really do it at that point. You needed a legit excuses, because if you're saying that it's results, then you need the results to back it, right? And at the time, the results were good. The results were really good. Those two results to start World Cup qualifying were just the excuse. Let's see. What do I think about Newcastle United? What do I think about Newcastle United? By the way, by the way, a big shout out to Kevin Keegan, by the way, who is I think he's dealing with I think he's dealing with terminal cancer, and the 74-year-old is probably not going to be around for much longer. And Kevin Keegan's Newcastle squads in the 90s with the entertainers, with Les Ferdinand, the guy, the kid, Keith Gillespie, who was with Manchester United. They brought back what's his ass they brought in Alan Shearer. Like, those were some of the best attacks in the 90s, and yet they still couldn't get over. But yeah, the entertainers were phenomenal in the 90s. But yeah, hopefully, Kevin Keegan can beat cancer. They honestly had no reason to fire Bob Bradley. Yeah, what's funny is you're right. Bob Bradley And by the way, it was the Gold Cup in 2010 against Mexico. Remember, it was either 2010, 2011 Gold Cup, where the U.S. get to the final. They're playing the final at the Rose Bowl against Mexico. And the U.S. take a 2-0 lead. And then Mexico come back with 4 unanswered. And we end up losing that Gold Cup. And little did we know that Sunil Gulati had already been talking with Jurgen Klinsmann for 2 months. So the wheels were already in motion, and Sunil Gulati needed an excuse to get rid of Bob Bradley. That was the excuse. And Bob, the interesting thing is like how the U.S. would have been if Bob stayed on for the 2014 cycle, because you have to remember that when Jurgen came in, he streamlined the entire. He was the sporting director, and so he was in charge of the youth programs as well too. And he had that thing entirely streamlined. And I think he brought in Tab Ramos, or maybe Tab was already there. But the question, I guess, is like, would it have been a little bit different on the youth side if Bob Bradley stayed and we actually had qualified for those Olympics that we missed? And would he have been more proactive in bringing up the next wave? You know what I mean? Would he have would Bob Bradley had recognized like, listen, man, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, all these guys are getting up there now, and we need the next wave. And so maybe we're going to start giving caps post 2010 World Cup to start bringing in some younger players, because we have to get ready for the next cycle, and we're going to need some new faces. So who knows? But that's going to do it for me, guys. I do want to thank you guys for tuning in. I do want to thank everybody that has tuned in on TikTok Live. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in on X, and all those that are tuning in on YouTube as well too. Please do me a favor and show some love and hit that like and subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell as well too, so you don't miss out on any upcoming Stateside Footy content. By the way, this weekend, the Premier League is back. I do have a live stream, I believe on Sunday, Sunderland versus Spurs, as Roberto De Zerbi makes his Tottenham debut. And we, of course, have the MLS live stream as well too. And I think I'm doing, give me 1 second. I think this weekend I am doing, let me double check. I want to do, I'm not going to do Austin with the Galaxy. That's a snooze fest. Let's see. Who did I say? Charlotte, Nashville is kind of nice. Inter Miami, Red Bulls is nice too. Who else did I have? It's either, Vancouver, NYCFC. I think that is probably going to be the game. As of right now, it's either going to be Vancouver, NYCFC, or Inter Miami versus the New York Red Bulls. You guys let me know. Between those two games, let me know. Yeah, everybody wants to see Miami. Everybody wants to see Miami. Ugh. All right, fine, Miami. Maybe. I'll decide. Take care, guys. Have a great night.
Rusted goalposts under fading skies.